Hello everyone, myself Madhave Sharma. Today we will discuss computer application and business, and my topic is basic knowledge of computer and the computer hardware. So our topic is assemble PC system. Assembling is basically to collect our parts and assemble our devices to make devices usable. So these are the some options, some steps or procedures that we can use to assemble our PC systems. Like first one is the gathering components. So components are the basic part of the computer. So first one, when we talk about the gathering components, like necessary hardware devices we can use, like PC including the CPU, motherboard, RAM, storage devices, power supply units, graphics card, and the peripheral devices. After assemble these components, we can manage our systems. Second one is the preparing the motherboard. The main important part of the computer system is CPU, and the main of the CPU is the motherboard. So to install the CPU, attach the CPU cooler, insert RAM modules, and connect necessary cables such as the power and the data cables. In the motherboard section, we can connect our RAM modules, connect our slots, connect ICs, power supplies, and prepare the motherboard finally. Third one is the mounting the motherboard. Mounting is basically motherboard inside the computer case and secure it using the screw or stand forts. We can mount our device. If we want to use our devices, we can mount our devices using the motherboard. Fourth one is the installing storage devices. Storage devices is basically memory connect to the hard drives or the solid state drives. We can say that the SDD or SDD to the appropriate ports, because everything is connected via the ports. Ports is basically we can say that the address on the motherboard using the SATA cables also. Next step is installing the power supply unit. It is also a compulsory unit to access our CPU, or we can say that to interface our devices or use our devices. To install the power supply unit, mount the PSU, that is the power supply unit, in the designated area, and the case to connect power cables to the motherboard, storage device, and other components. So power supplies is everywhere, in the motherboard also, in the storage devices also, and the other peripheral or other component also. Next one is the connecting peripherals. Connecting peripherals, after installing the power supply or motherboards, we can connect the peripheral devices like keyboards, mouse, printers, speakers for the appropriate port, because every port is responsible for a specific task. And when we talk about the specific task, like inputting, we are using the keyboard and mouse. For outputting port, we will use for the monitor and the printer. So every port is specific to the other devices, so we can connect our devices using the specific port. Next one is the checking connections. For checking the connection, double click all the connections and ensure they are secure and properly used. Next one is the powering on. After connecting or after assembling the devices, we can on our power. Next one is the BIOS check. After connecting or assembling the devices, we can check our BIOS, like basic input output system. It means all the instructions are executed properly in the random in the ROM, that is the read only memory. So we can check our BIOS and the other hardware components are detected and configured correctly. Now last one is the operating system is the installation. OS, it is the basic and the main interface of any computer system, because using an operating system, it is basically an interface that is used to by the user to interface with our hardware, or we can say that the devices. Using the OS, it is basically some capabilities like operating system management, process management, device management, deadlock management, file system management, memory management. These are the main part of an operating system. So using the OS installation, we can interface, we can intermediate, we can use our hardware system by the user. Now last one is the post assembly testing. After installation of the operating system, run various tests such as the stress test, check the stability and performance of the system. Last one is the troubleshooting. If any problems occur, address any issue that during the testing, such as the conflict of the hardware, overheating, and the component failure, we can using the troubleshooting. Installation of the dual OS in a system. Dual OS is basically two operating systems. When we install dual OS in any system, these are the some steps like prepare installation media. First of all, we have to have device to install an operating system for the both OS. Second one is the partition of the hard drive. We can partition our device of the hard drive for the one OS and the other drive or other storage for the second OS. Third one is the install the first OS. First one is the by default operating system we can install, and after that operating system we can install our second OS, or we can say that the dual OS. Fourth one is the install the second OS, boot from the installation media for the second OS and install it on the specific or allocated partitions. Last one is the configure dual boot. Because the boot is basically a booting process, we can when we start our computer, it is start for the booting, and by default operating system that we choose, that will be start. After both operating systems the install, configure the dual boot system, allowing you to choose which operating system you have to use during the system's startup. Last one is the managing bootloader. Depending upon the OS, you can manage our bootloader to priorities of the default OS or the adjust boot options. Configure internet network and the use of the debug network issues. These are the some steps for the configuration, like connect network hardware, configure network settings. These are the some options, like, and troubleshooting utilities in the Windows and the Linux also. Check the network drivers also, firewall and the security settings, resetting network devices if any issue occur, Wi-Fi troubleshootings like the check signal strength, verify the Wi-Fi authentication settings, etc. Like the DNS setting for the considering using the DNS servers like Google DNS and the Open DNS, proxy setting for connecting the internet, concatenating the ISP. It is basically for the internet service provider. These are the some questions of the related to the dual operating system, like what is the dual OS installations, why should someone wants to install dual OS, can I install dual OS on system that already has the operating systems, what are the steps to install the dual OS, can I upgrade one of the OS in the dual OS setup without affecting the others. So this is the some questions and the answers. So it is very important for the dual operating system or computer applications. Thank you.